Hi, I'm Noah, 35, and I made the dumbest, brilliant mistake of my life when I handed my parents the keys to a $500,000 vineyard estate, thinking it would bring us closer. Spoiler, it didn't. It started as a gift. An apology? Maybe. For the years we barely spoke, the birthdays I spent solo, the Thanksgivings filled with texts like next year, for sure. I bought the vineyard not as a flex, but as a hope. I imagined fire pits under the stars, wine-stained teeth, and second chances. I imagined weekends where my dad would finally look proud, and my mom would actually relax. 2 months later, I drove by and saw a realtor's sign swinging in the wind. Asterisk, I'd like to say I was surprised. I wasn't, not really, just cracked open in a new place. Let me back up. I'm Noah, software developer by trade, reluctant family optimist by habit. I grew up in a house where silence was louder than arguments and affection came in the form of tax advice and lukewarm coffee. I was the middle kid. My brother Josh was the golden boy, prom king, business major. Now runs something international and talks like every conversation is a TED Talk. My sister Paige was the chaos engine, pierced by 14, emancipated by 17, backed by 23 with twins and an MLM starter kit. Me, I made websites in my bedroom and stayed out of everyone's way. By 30, I was doing okay. Sold a startup, moved into a clean 1-bedroom with a view of the freeway and a fridge full of frozen dumplings. I didn't talk to my family much, but I sent birthday cards and Christmas gift cards and paid for things they didn't know how to ask for. Then, 2 years ago, my dad had a minor stroke. He was fine, recovered well, but something shifted. He called me, unprompted, just to talk. Said he was scared. Said he missed us. I drove down that weekend and we sat on the back porch like strangers trying to remember what closeness used to feel like. That was the start. Over the next few months, we did the dance. Sunday phone calls, group texts that fizzled out, a family Zoom on Thanksgiving that ended with Josh lecturing Paige about financial boundaries and Dad logging off mid-sentence. Still, I kept trying. Then I found the vineyard. It wasn't even that big. 20 acres, give or take. An old farmhouse to guest cottages and rows of vines that wrapped around the hills like green veins. The realtor told me it used to be a family-run business. The parents passed, the kids weren't interested. I toured it once and thought, this could be ours. I bought it outright. No mortgage, no noise. Just escrow, signatures, and suddenly I was holding a deed to a future I wanted to believe in. I didn't tell them right away. I waited until the farmhouse was cleaned up, the kitchen painted, the weeds trimmed. I stocked the wine fridge, laid out a cheese board, and invited them for what I called a surprise retreat. They drove up that Saturday. Dad whistled when he saw the view. Mom teared up. Paige said, "This is like Hallmark movie level." Even Josh cracked a smile. We drank. We laughed. We walked the vines under fairy lights. And when I told them it was theirs, all of ours, my dad looked at me like I'd handed him a second youth. "I just want us to have a place," I said. "A real one? Together." He hugged me. He actually hugged me. My mom whispered something like, "This is more than we deserve." We stayed the weekend. Then I went back to the city and didn't hear a thing. Weeks passed. I sent texts. "How's the vineyard?" No reply. "Any plans for next visit?" Silence. I assumed they were busy. Then one afternoon, I was driving to a client meeting and decided to detour just to see it. I turned onto the gravel road and slowed as the farmhouse came into view. That's when I saw it. A big white sign in front of the property gate. Red and blue logo. "For sale, call Linda." I thought it was a mistake. Wrong address. Wrong property. I pulled over, got out, stared at the sign like it might blink and say just kidding. But there it was. My vineyard. My gift. Up for sale. And no one had told me a damn thing. Asterisk, I didn't call anyone right away. I just stood there next to my car like a guy who just found out his surprise birthday party was actually a breakup. The wind picked up, the sign creaked on its metal post. Somewhere behind the house, a dog barked. Or maybe it was just a leaf blower. It didn't matter. I wasn't even listening. The gate was locked. I punched the code I'd set up into the keypad. Still worked. Good to know they hadn't bothered to change it. I walked up the gravel drive toward the farmhouse. Everything looked off to clean, like it had been staged. The wine fridge was empty. The cheese board I'd left was gone. Even the porch swing was straightened, like someone had measured it with a level. I peeked through the window and saw white flowers on the dining table and a bowl of fake lemons. Then it hit me. They were staging it. Not for us. For someone else. I drove home in silence. No music. No GPS. Just the kind of numb that wraps around your shoulders like a too tight sweater. That night, I texted my mom. Me. Hey, quick question. Why is the vineyard listed for sale? Nothing. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Josh, not a text, a call. I let it go to voicemail. Then Paige texted, "Can we talk?" It's not what you think, which is always what people say when it's exactly what you think. I finally called Dad. He picked up on the first ring like he'd been holding the phone. "Hey, kiddo, why is it for sale?" A beat of silence. Then, "It's just a lot of work." Who decided that? Well, we all talked. All of us. I don't remember voting. You're not here. No, we've been the ones maintaining it. You mean staging it for a sale? Another pause. It's too much for us? It was a beautiful idea, but we're not vineyard people. I laughed, bitter, loud. You could have told me. We didn't want to hurt your feelings. Well, too late. You sold the place without telling the person who bought it. East Side. It's not about the money. That's exactly what people say when it is. That ended the call. Next day, I got an email from Josh. Of course, it was an email. "Noah, I want to acknowledge your generosity and good intentions, but the vineyard isn't sustainable for our lifestyle. Paige is overwhelmed, Dad's health makes upkeep difficult, and frankly, none of us have the bandwidth for a second property. Selling it is the most logical choice. You'll be reimbursed, obviously." Josh reimbursed like I'd sent the wrong dinner order and they were Venmoing me for the salad. I didn't respond. I didn't go back. And yet, for weeks, I couldn't stop checking the listing, watching the price drop. $1 for 99K, $489,000 one day. It vanished. Listing removed. No note. No update. I figured maybe it sold. Maybe it didn't. I didn't care. Except I did. Until Paige showed up at my apartment. I hadn't seen her in person since that vineyard weekend. She was holding a bottle of cheap wine and plastic cups. Her eyes were red, no makeup. Hoodie with one sleeve pulled over her hand. I didn't know they were selling it until it was already in motion, she said as soon as I opened the door. They looped me in after the staging. "You could have said something." I did. I told them it was wrong. I told them it would break you. I just stood there, leaning against the doorframe. She looked at the floor. I didn't know how to fix it. Maybe tell me. I don't know. A text, a voicemail, literally any form of communication? She held up the wine. I brought a peace offering. I let her in. We sat on my couch, sipping warm Merlot out of solo cups. She told me the story, or her version of it. Dad got overwhelmed. Mom got anxious. Josh got practical. They all started panicking about taxes, upkeep, insurance. Josh brought in a realtor. Mom said she didn't want to stress Dad out with all this work. Paige said she was in charge of support, whatever that meant. No one told me because, as Paige put it, you already gave them the gift. And they felt like that meant they could do what they wanted. It wasn't a toaster, I said. I know. They didn't even tell me they were selling. They thought it would be easier. Easier for who? That shut her up. She left after an hour. Didn't finish the wine. The next day, I got a text from my dad. I miss the vineyard already. Hope we didn't ruin things. Let's talk soon. I didn't answer because the truth is they didn't ruin the vineyard. They ruined the point of it. Here's where the story flips. Not like a neat page in a photo album, but like a table mid-argument. Loud, ugly, unrecoverable. 2 weeks after Paige's visit, I got a certified envelope from a law firm. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a misfile, a tax thing. I opened it on the kitchen counter, still holding a fork with leftover pad thai wrapped around it. I wasn't ready. Inside was a formal document. Notice of intent to transfer ownership. Proceeds. Translation. They'd sold the vineyard, and they weren't reimbursing me. They were splitting the money. 3 ways. Josh, Paige, Dad. The letter outlined a familial agreement, verbal but mutually understood, about shared ownership. It referenced cooperative stewardship and non-financial contributions, like cleaning, decorating, mowing. No mention of my purchase, no deed, just this vague assertion that it had been gifted to the family as a collective entity. I dropped my fork, not just because they were stealing, but because they'd rewritten the entire story, turned my gift into an inheritance. They all decided to divide. I called the law firm, got a chipper assistant. I'm sorry, Mr. Davis isn't available. Tell him this is Noah Taylor. Tell him I own that property. The loan, silence. Then I'll have someone return your call. They didn't. So I dug out the original documents. The deed, the wire transfer, the LLC I'd set up to protect the estate. I called my lawyer. 2 days later, he confirmed what I suspected. They'd forged a shared ownership clause, filed a false affidavit, claiming the property had been gifted in equal parts to the family trust. Trust I didn't even know existed. That's when I realized this. It wasn't just about the vineyard. This was a heist. The kind with paper trails, fake signatures, and a smiling family who all swore they were just trying to do the right thing. My lawyer told me we could fight it, that the documents I had were solid, that we could freeze the disbursement of funds and file for misappropriation and civil theft. But I didn't file. Not right away, because for a solid week, I couldn't stop thinking, how did it get here? I didn't grow up rich, but I worked, I saved. I bought that vineyard because I wanted my family back, and they sold it out from under me. Then split the money like it was spare change in a couch. Cushion. And that should've been the end. Except then Paige called me crying. She didn't know I knew. She thought they were still working it out. I think Josh made it messy, she said. I don't think Dad understands what he signed. Stop. I said, stop pretending this was an accident. She sniffled. It wasn't me. It was all of you. I hung up. That night, I opened the family group chat for the first time in 2 months. It was mostly Josh sending articles about interest rates and my mom forwarding chain messages about Jesus and blood pressure. I posted a single message. Since you're all so comfortable pretending you own the vineyard, I'm assuming you'll be just as comfortable when this gets corrected. Legally, publicly. See you in court. Left the chat. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded. Calls, texts, even a voicemail from Josh. First time I'd heard his voice since the day I gave them the keys. No, this is getting out of hand. No one meant to screw you over. Let's just talk. We can settle this internally. Internally, that's what they call betrayal when it happens at brunch. I ignored him. I let my lawyer file the injunction. The county clerk flagged the false affidavit. The disbursement of sale funds was frozen instantly. Within 72 hours. I had a formal cease and desist from their attorney, then a counter letter begging for a private family mediation. I told my lawyer, make it public. We scheduled a court date. Then the real panic began. Paige showed up at my apartment again, this time with a handwritten letter from Dad. Inside, I thought we could fix this before it got ugly. We love you. I hope you remember that when this ends. This wasn't ending. This was beginning. The part where all the buried family debt, shame, and manipulation got dragged into the sunlight. Josh tried calling again, then texting, and I swear I'm not making this up, he sent me a LinkedIn connection request. I blocked him. 2 days before the hearing, their lawyer offered a settlement. They'd return 60% of the sale funds to me. No apology. No admission of wrongdoing. Just. Let's be reasonable. I counter offered 100% plus public acknowledgement of the false affidavit plus a notarized statement that I was the sole original purchaser of the estate. Josh replied, this time directly, you're willing to destroy our entire family over pride. I replied, you were willing to sell me out for a landscaping bill. That shut him up. Day of the hearing, only Paige showed up. Josh didn't. My parents stayed home. The judge reviewed the paperwork, the deed, and the LLC registration. It took less than 30 minutes. Verdict, I was the sole legal owner. The affidavit was thrown out. The funds returned. Not split. Not taxed. Mine. Every last penny. Afterward, Paige tried to hug me. I stepped back. I'm glad you won, she said. I didn't respond because this wasn't a win. It was a survival. Asterisk, you'd think once the legal dust settles, the truth wins and the crooks get caught. There's closure. There isn't. There's a weird kind of silence, though. Not peace. Not relief. More like the stillness after a thunderclap. Like everyone's waiting to see if the storm's really over, or if that was just the warm dash up after the court decision. My phone stayed dead quiet. No, we're sorry. No, we didn't mean it that way. No, we made a mistake. Just radio silence from the people who once called me family. Paige stopped by once more. I didn't answer the door. She left a plant, a succulent taped with a note. Forgiveness is growth. Please don't let this be the end. The plant died 2 weeks later. No sunlight, no watering. Fitting. I single quotes like to say I was fine. Then I took the money, reinvested it, and went back to coding my quiet life in peace. And on the outside, that's exactly what I did. On the inside, I was angry, not at the money, not even at the lies. I was angry that I believed in the fairy tale, that maybe, just maybe, this house, this vineyard, this gesture would somehow fix us. Instead, it revealed us. Worse. It revealed me. The part of me that still thought if I gave enough, they'd choose me. They didn't. The vineyard money sat untouched for weeks. I couldn't even look at it without feeling stupid. I bought that place because I wanted laughter under lanterns, long dinners on mismatched plates, my dad smiling at a sunset without coughing up something passive-aggressive first. What I got was a realtor's sign and a forged document. What I got was my family, unfiltered, ungrateful, and unbelievably entitled. Josh posted a family photo on Facebook a few weeks later, all of them at some Airbnb near Sonoma. New winery, same sunset. Caption read, no vineyard, no problem, just us. Hashtag family first, hashtag legacy strong. I almost choked on my coffee. Paige wasn't in the photo. A few days later, she texted me. They've already moved on. You were right. I just wanted to believe they'd change. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, because I was tired, but that text stuck with me. They've already moved on. Of course they had, because in their minds, I wasn't the brother or son who gifted them a dream. I was the complication, the witness, the one who remembered the story before they rewrote it. They didn't just move on, they deleted me. But here's the thing they didn't count on. I didn't stay deleted. 3 months after the hearing, I bought another property. Not a vineyard, a tiny, run-down guest house near the original estate. Cracked windows, feral grass. A grape arbor collapsed under decades of rot. It was perfect because it was mine. No more gifts. No more family shares. No more seats at the table I built for people who kept pulling the legs out from under me. I hired a contractor, replanted the arbor, stripped the walls, installed a long wooden table, the kind you don't share unless you trust who's sitting across from you. And then I invited strangers. Found families, people I met through local groups, community projects, late night Reddit threads of other people like me, the black sheep, the scapegoats, the second choice sons and daughters who paid the bills and got blamed anyway. Every other Sunday, we sit there. We eat. We drink. We laugh. We tell stories that aren't rewritten. No one fights over ownership. No one sells what they didn't build. And no one leaves feeling like they were only invited because they were useful. Paige texted once, "Are you okay? Just wondering." Josh says you've gone full recluse. I replied, "I'm building something real. You're welcome to stop by. But it's not a family thing. Not anymore." She never answered. And maybe that's fine. Maybe some endings don't need a reconciliation arc. Maybe the real win isn't getting back what was taken. It's building what no one can take from you. It's been over a year now since the Vineyard fallout, or as I sometimes call it in my head, the great regifting that wasn't. A full year of quiet Sundays, good food, and people who show up without expecting an inheritance. Funny how fast you can heal when no one's actively picking at the scab. The little guest house is finished now. It's not fancy. There's a crooked lamp in the corner I refuse to fix because it reminds me not everything has to be perfect to be loved. The walls are covered in mismatched frames from thrift stores, photos of sunsets, postcards from nowhere, handwritten notes from the people who sat at the table and left a piece of themselves behind. I call it the table house. Because that's what it is. A table, a house, and a place where no one gets sold out for wine money. Word got around. Quietly, a friend of a friend, a neighbor, someone who saw the ad for Sunday suppers and showed up expecting soup and got soul instead. I don't advertise. I don't post. But somehow, people find it. Sometimes they bring stories that make mine look like a sitcom pilot. One guy, David, showed up after his parents sued him for emotional damages when he moved out and refused to co-sign his brother's boat loan. Another, Maria, had spent 2 years caring for her grandmother full-time, only to be left out of the will in favor of a cousin who needed it more. They come, they eat, and somewhere between the second plate of pasta and the third cup of coffee, they start laughing again. I don't serve wine. It's not a protest. I just can't stand the smell anymore. Some things leave a permanent scar. Speaking of permanent, my family never came back. Josh blocked me. I assume his ego needed room to stretch. My parents sent a Christmas card, one of those generic drugstore types with a picture of snowmen and a note inside. Hope you're well. Mom and Dad, they signed it like they were sending it to an old coworker. I didn't send one back. And Paige, she visited once. It was late spring. The arbor was blooming again. Not full yet, but trying. She showed up unannounced, holding a pie and a story. They cut me off, she said, standing on the porch. I didn't let her in right away. She didn't ask me to. I didn't come to stay, she said. I just wanted to see if this was real. It is, she nodded. They think you're insane, you know? I smiled. I might be, but I'm not selling anything I didn't buy. She laughed at that. Really laughed? And for a second, she looked like the sister I used to believe in. She stayed for dinner. She helped wash dishes. She cried over dessert. She didn't ask for money. She didn't come back after that, but she texted sometimes. That's enough. Some nights I sit on the porch and watch the arbor. It's slow, uneven, still fighting back from the years of neglect, but it grows anyway. I think about the vineyard sometimes. The original one. It sold again, I heard. New owners, real ones. A couple who hosts weddings now and has no idea a full-scale emotional mutiny went down in their living room. I'm glad. That land deserves better memories. So do I. And if you're wondering what happened to the money, the court-awarded, hard-fought, not-so-gifted back gift, I used it to fund scholarships for kids who age out of the foster system. No strings, no wine pairings, just tuition, laptops, and rent checks sent anonymously. I figured if my family couldn't understand what a gift was supposed to mean, maybe strangers could. The truth is, I didn't need the vineyard. I needed what I thought it would bring. Connection. Grace. A second chance. Turns out, I didn't have to buy that. I just had to stop giving it to people who thought thank you was optional. The table house is mine, the future is mine, and the family. I built that myself. No inheritance required.